Hello, everybody. Welcome back to match two in this losers round six between third seeded DC and fourth seeded OC, also known as Odd Company. I am joined in the booth once again by Jem. Thank you, Jem.
Hey everybody.
My name is Abinus. I'll be your host. And we are about to get started here. This is match two in a best of three. OC is the lower seeded team. So OC has elected to come to Rue on St. Marie du Mont. This is the updated version of St. Marie du Mont. So we just added Rue for this tournament. And OC has picked Axis and they have picked attacking. But we were talking in the pregame. We think picking Axis is an interesting choice, but one that teams have been making in this tournament thus far.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic in the sense I kind of see the points of both teams, but in general, in my view, I would say that Allies has advantage on Ru at the start because essentially like the strong point buildings that you can see that are in the circle are give more angles for allies to get inside the point and actually hold it better. While Axis, on the other hand, if they push up, they have only one building and one hedgerow to stand behind, and they can be just camps from the strong point itself. But what Axis do have is they have this kind of west side of Rue with the wheat fields and hedges and buildings, which kind of is easier for them to control if they approach it properly. And then like Allies side has this glider essentially, and then open field, so it's hard for them to actually push up to the west side. So I kind of see both things. For map control, I think Axis feels maybe more balanced, more easier, but Allies has definitely better options on the strong point, and I think in all cases Allies should be capping mid first at the very start. What happens after next 7-8 minutes is a different story, but at the start Allies have advantage at the strong point.
Yes, and I will say we've seen some really nice even matches on this strong point. Um, I think the match between you and the camp last week on this map was pretty close until the final 5, 6, 7 minutes or so, and then it really started to swing in your favor. But I think about that match. I think about there were a couple of good matches between LL and NBA here. Like, there's been a lot of really close games on Rue thus far. And going back to your point that you made about artillery battery earlier, and that you were interested in why DC would pick it, because it does feel like more quote unquote balanced than some of the other ones. And I feel like Rue is kind of the same way. I feel like this is a fairly balanced strong point in both directions.
Well, it's definitely hard to push the team out if you're trading kills, because there's a lot of open fields, and yeah, like if you just trade kills, you're not gonna get anywhere. And
Yeah, you kind of just get stuck.
the biggest fight over is always on the west side and the strong point itself. If you're able to hold them off in the strong point, and they're like the team on Allies side is not very aggressive and not pushing you out, you are giving the chance for yourself on the west side, and whoever wins the west side essentially can outflank everybody. Because if you get to push through the west side of the map further, and especially if you have an AT guy who does that, you can just easily snipe all the outposts behind the strong point on Nexus side.
Yes. And I think something to watch for. We have watched that very western part of the map, as you can see on stream here. There's like a little bit of foliage here and a little bit of a hedge, and we have seen players slip through on this very edge of the map and get around on the west side. So I think that's something to watch for the DC team. Curious to see if they try that. I think for Odd Company, the key, and we talked about this in the pregame before we came on stream, was is Odd Company going to commit an entire squad of players to protect the east side, or will they just leave a couple there and bring everyone else into the strong point? And from your point of view, Jem, the right play is to leave 2 or 3 guys there and bring everyone else in, right?
Yeah, I don't feel like you should be leaving a lot of guys on the east. Maybe at the start you can get 4 or something to just assess what's going on there. If the team is bringing only like the same one squad or something, to just to see, like, to touch that ground. And when you see that it's stale there, it's like you're holding a hedge against the hedge, then I don't think like you should leave more than 2 or 3 guys there. I would rather push them out to the strong points, get on these stone walls there, and start pushing up a little bit and assisting from a different angle on the building that Axis have. Because if you're shutting down this building here on the south side of the strong point, then from both angles, it's very tough for Axis to actually break through.
We've got about 3 minutes to start here. We had a little bit of a delay. We've had a few delays in this match so far, but that's okay. We're figuring it out as we go. For me, in adding Rue in the tournament, we had Foy, and I really wanted to keep 8 maps total. So we took out Foy, we added Rue with the changes, and it has felt really good. We did a practice match with the entire community on this strong point, a pre-tournament, and I think that went fairly well. For me, what I'm looking for in this match is, it felt like in match 1, Odd Company just didn't play together super well. And I don't think that DC played together super well either. Like it was a lot of like individual plays happening all over the map, but I felt like not everything was getting properly communicated. And so can either team find the communication advantage? And can Odd Company, I think for them, they really need to communicate a little bit better, especially between their squads, and try and figure out the right strategy moving forward. Because I think their tactics last game, where they were kind of leaving things to squads to push through certain areas, it was fine until it wasn't, and then they kind of got stuck, and then they were pretty much just stuck for the rest of the game. So I think for Odd Company, they need to try and get a little bit more creative. And I think for DC, they just need to do a little bit of a better job. They have a tendency to overcommit. I think we saw that last game. They felt like they were getting pushed on the north side of artillery batteries, so they sent an entire squad there, and they just kind of like left the very southern side of the map wide open. Odd Company didn't exploit it, but in a match like this, that could definitely be exploited now.
Yeah, I partially agree on that they overextend. They did at some point, but I think overall, if we look at the whole match, I think they had really good composure. They were holding. I would disagree in the places they would hold as squads, because they just overstacked some spots, the same spots, without having any more angles. But in general, I think DC held pretty well. While I totally agree with Odd Company not working well as a team. It felt like squads were just separate, not working well together, as you said. And they were just stuck. They were not trying new stuff.
They just kind of were trying the same thing.
They started pushing late south. They didn't rotate the squad north to help north, even though north actually for quite some time was quite even, I would say.
And rockets, as match start, we get rockets coming out here. And one hits the radar array, and I don't think one grabbed anyone from the DC team. Interesting. Everybody from DC, pretty much except for 3 guys, as we talked about, are going straight to the strong point. So that's definitely something to note. And OC is sending a full squad of 6 along that east side. So, at the very start of the match, we're already going to see a numbers advantage come in for DC in and around the strong point. And how quickly are they going to shift those players over, or will they shift those players over? Because it looks like they're going to, commit a full squad.
Let's see how defensive the Ninja's outpost is going to be. Is he going to place it in this trench line, or is he going to move it to the glider? We've tried to play with outpost on the glider, but I didn't feel like it's the best play, because we were just stuck on this glider kind of in the open field, and we couldn't push the training camp really on the west side. And when we moved the outpost actually into the wheat fields, it was much easier to push in the west side. And we can see that the Ninja actually placed outpost behind the glider. Looks like they're going to do the same as we did, except Trocarian didn't place his MG in the glider.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to just avoid the glider altogether to start, which I think is definitely an interesting play. We're seeing a huge concentration from both teams starting to get close to the strong point. I think DC has a little bit stronger view. And already we're seeing a couple players from OC are trying to cross on the very eastern side, so we'll keep an eye on that.
There's an interesting approach from Odd Company. They sent two squad leaders on the west side straight away, and then the squad leader that you saw on the east, he actually tried to move to the strong point after he placed his outpost on the flank. So they're going initially for the west side right away.
Yeah, and that's not a bad idea. And I have to say, there's a questionable outpost there. DC has actually placed, Baker Squad has got their OP inside of the black circle on Rue. I feel like that's pretty unnecessary, right?
Yeah, that's a place where you can actually nade it if you get close.
Yeah, you could easily nade this thing. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Oh, it actually looks like it's in the trench behind. It looks like it's in the circle of the map. But it's actually a little
it
bit...
is in the trench, but it's still nadable.
It's still nadable, yeah. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And already, we have an OC player on the very east side, an assault player that has actually crossed already. This is Billy.
It looks like they're giving them too much ground right now. They're not checking the angle, the east side that well.
Yeah, Billy and Ebla closing. Oh, Nvidia gets one, but Ebla's still there. Let's see if he can
Nvidia
find.
has an advantage though. He's a better shooter.
Now Justbin's coming over to help. Oh, his feet are right above Ebla. He can't see. Literally, Nvidia's feet are directly above Ebla, and he can't see them. They're peeking out through the side of the building, and he gets shot. That's hilarious. Only in hell, at least.
The game.
So Ebla just can't find his guy. But that was interesting. I mean, OC trying to cross that field early. I don't mind that. That's not a bad idea. We do see that, you know, OC got to make their picks here. They elected to attack, which meant that they didn't need to worry about, like, you know, resetting outposts if they didn't cap it. And they are actually getting a little bit of capture progress right now. So that's something to keep an eye on.
So instead of usual approach from the teams that we see, outposts having behind the southern building, behind the hedge, now they actually have the outposts quite far around the trenches, flag pits, kind of, and then they're pushing from there towards the strong point, which is quite a run. So far, it seems to be working.
So far, yeah, so far so good. I do think that's a pretty risky outpost for DC. If all it takes is one player to get a grenade in that trench and that outpost is gone. So a little risky. I would probably set it a little bit further back inside of the wheat field as safety. So far, DC has advantage, but definitely a close game. DC now really piling like pretty much half their team inside of the black circle. 5 minutes in here.
Templeton, watch right. Templeton just didn't see a guy crossing the road in front of him.
Right in front of him. We've got 4 guys from OC holding east. I think that's probably on the upper range of what we'd probably want to see, but they're at least holding it. So at some point, I think just leave 2 over there, like you said, and then pivot everyone else over. But we are seeing pretty good trading coming in right now for OC. OC is still doing a good job. And there was actually a bit of an opening there on the road, an automatic rifleman. He's probably going to die here. But he had a little bit of an opportunity there to cross. So DC, like, not covering every angle. OC finding some avenues. For me, to be honest, I think the thing to watch is these outposts from OC. Like, when do they elect to move them up? Do they keep them where they are? Do they try to force DC in? Because DC's OPs are fairly dangerous. At least the one is. And so if OC can just get a southern, you know, a really, really strong presence on the southern side of the black circle, and we are seeing capture progress, as I say that, come in. So DC now, you know, has to realize that they've got to do something about the south side, or there's going to be capture progress this entire match going against them.
I really like the Odd Company map control right now that they have. Like, they have everything covered, and actually they're making it hard for DC to get in strong point and hold those good angles, because they're just controlling the road on the west. They're controlling east side of the strong point by checking from the hedgerows, having those different angles there, and there's also like securing some guys in the strong point, which is quite a lot. I can count already like 6 guys in the circle.
Yeah,
from Odd Company,
and they are over halfway to capping. So Odd Company actually, I think, finding some openings, grenades going out, really getting a good number of kills here. And you know, now that outpost really starts to get a little dangerous for the DC team as OC starts to close in on the circle. So they'll need to give an eye.
Like Ninja Pulver needs to realize that he needs to move his outpost into wheat fields or something, not to lose that position. Because right now they need to cross the road to get there. And it seems like they're just stuck on this glider doing nothing.
Yeah, and Odd Company has really kind of emptied out the zone, and now they're getting in, and DC now coming, you know, has got a huge concentration, 6, 7, 8 guys. But I think Odd Company is going to flip the zone here. So let's just...
Biker realizing that he needs to replace the outpost in a second. He's pushing into the strong point for no reason.
Yeah, that's definitely something he's got to watch. He's starting to run back now, I think, maybe picking it up. But I think Odd Company here is going to capture the zone, so good on them, and that's going to force DC to reset outposts. So OC gets the cap. and we're seeing OPs get replaced now. All 3 OPs replaced for the DC team. So they do pick them up and they do what they need to do.
All right, and we already can see people trying to push out on the east, and doesn't look really well on DC side, actually. They don't have any people watching east, really, except NVIDIA.
Yeah, there's just the rifleman out there. He's done okay, but he can't cover all the ground that needs to be covered. And he actually goes down, so, you know, they're actually closing in. Able outpost for DC getting threatened here. Who is this? This is Breakpoint from OC. He's very, very close to this outpost.
I don't think he can actually move the outpost right now, because I think he moved this outpost not long time ago. So he's just gonna have to stay alive for some time.
Yeah, we're gonna need to keep an eye on this as we see capture progress now going back.
And he died.
You know, Breakpoint goes down, but capture progress coming in now in DC in the other direction.
Yeah, I think they regrouped real well. I think OC actually pushed out
a little too high. Yeah, that's how I feel too. So now OC is gonna have to run back into the zone. And
you can really feel it right now because their outposts were really far. They didn't move them in as soon as they capped.
Grenades really being used effectively, and I've seen a ton of kills from grenades here. So both teams getting them in good locations, seeing a lot of bodies drop on both sides. DC trying to get some positioning inside of the circle, and right now it's a straight contest, just even. It looks like now OC starting to reverse a little bit, and you know. You're right. DC never really got control of that far western side. They kind of just ceded it to OC like right at the start of the match, and OC's just had it the entirety thus far. And that is kind of working against DC a little bit because they're getting shot from two sides.
That's the only reason they're losing the strong point at this very moment.
Correct. And that is really going to, I think, kind of bite them here a little bit. I think they were a little too focused on the glider, and I'm not quite sure why. They really seem to prioritize the glider, and like I think the real position they wanted was that wall on the west side, because you're seeing 6, 7, 8 guys from OC now really pushing into that position and making it hard for this.
What is interesting, and I haven't noticed it when I was playing the strongman myself, this barn on the west side of the road is actually in the cap as well.
Yes.
And you can see like OC is just stacking 4 guys there.
I think that this is going to be a crazy back and forth for the entirety of the match. We saw in about 5 minutes there, we saw OC cap. Then we saw DC come storming back in, get it about halfway. Then OC reversed it. And now OC has got it back down to where they want it to be. So it's just a crazy back and forth at the moment. I don't really know what to make of this. This is just like...
There's still a slight chance from Out Company actually getting an opportunity to throw a grenade over this barn on the north side of Strongpoint and get that outpost in the wheat fields because it's too close. They were really close actually with one nade. They dropped it right next to it.
Yeah, I just didn't quite get it. I do feel like at some point, OC's got to move these outposts up a little bit, right? I mean, they're a little too far back.
You can already see that Steven actually has moved his outpost into the regular spots next to Strongpoint, so they don't lose the Strongpoint that much.
And what's interesting now for DC is that all 3 outposts are within 50, 60 meters of each other. So that's also a bit risky, right? Like if a breakthrough gets through, you could lose all 3 spawns. So they got to really be careful here and watch for this.
The only squad leader that hasn't moved his outpost currently is Aztec, and he needs to do it. You can see where Makarovich is, the MG guy.
Yes.
It's even more further, the outpost.
That's just too far back. They're going to have to move it up. Even 20, 30 meters forward would make a difference in terms of runtime.
Yeah, it feels a lot. You can feel it during the games quite a lot. Look at the breakpoint going commando.
Yeah, it's on the far side. Yeah, I see him on the very, very, very far side of my screen there. But, this is a high-risk, high-reward play for DC. I mean, stacking the outposts together means that they're all close and they've got high concentration. But if they all go down and their players, slips through, it could, kind of spell doom for them. So far, so good. I mean, DC hanging in there, getting capture progress again. Still plenty of time in this match. Like, it's still early. Plenty of time for this to kind of be figured out. But yeah, the outposts for DC are definitely a question mark as we get a little bit deeper into the match. Actually, really for both teams, outposts are a question mark. Like what's going to happen? And now you're seeing DC actually making a bit of a play here for the west side.
You can see them outgunning actually Out Company at this very moment. Because Odd Company was really close to outbox them, but it's just that they swarmed them with numbers and then just outgunned them. That's, I think, like the biggest reason why DC is still not pushed out. So far, Odd Company is still holding on.
Yeah, they're holding on, and I feel like for Odd Company, that's all they really need to do, right? Because they do control the zone. So, like, you know, if they can just hold on for as long as they can, they're going to have to force DC to make a play for the point sometime in the next, 10 minutes or so, I would think. But now, interesting note, Jem, there's nothing going on the east side at all at this point. Like, the whole fight has moved to the circle, which I think is pretty interesting. Both teams have just wide open angles on the east side to move, and neither team is doing it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's a waste. You need somebody at least to check what's going on.
I mean, for either team, right? Like, just all it takes is one guy. They'd very easily get across. There is an MG sitting all the way in the back for OC that looks to be suppressing in towards the point, but, like, very easy for a player to just slip through in the field here and get across. I mean, it would be pretty easy to do at this moment.
It's one thing, but the second thing, like, you don't have an angle on this strong point from a different side at all. Like,
Correct.
You could kill Ebla right now, peeking there, right?
Absolutely. And now, we were just saying a little bit ago, DC is outgunning, but now OC getting in, and they're actually getting pretty close to those dual outposts. And this is, I mean, we're in grenade range here, so one good grenade could drop both outposts. Steven now running right up to it. And he gets Alex Boss. Oh, and he goes down just short of the outpost. Oh. DC saves the OP by about a couple of feet there, I would say.
Steven just called it out.
Yeah, it's got to be marked at this point. He must have saw it. But, I mean, Odd Company really has opened up the center, like, pretty heavily here. DC now really getting pushed into, the backfield and a little bit to the western side. If Odd Company can push through, knock these outposts, a big spawn wave just came in. All it takes, though, is a grenade or two to get over here and really could thin out DC pretty heavily. So, that outpost placement is high risk, high reward for DC. Right now, it is in play. It is working. They're getting the spawn wave back. They're getting numbers back. But, all it takes, like we saw, is just one guy. All it takes is Steven to just run through. And it could have just been absolute disaster for DC right there.
Juspin realized that, and he moved the outpost slightly back.
Yeah, that's a good... Just a little bit. It doesn't need to be too much. Just a little bit. They were just so close right there that if a player entered the trench, that would pretty much be it.
What's really important right now is that because Aztec hasn't moved his outpost closer, they're actually given some ground to DC guys on the west side.
This is just wildly back and forth. I mean, it's just every time you see OC moves all the way through to the strong point and then they get wiped, and then DC moves all the way to the other side and then they get wiped. It's just like a wild back and forth. Now, as I say that, you are seeing a squad is moving in on the eastern side. A squad from OC, this is Breakpoint. He has finally decided that he's going to go for it, and no one from DC is watching him. He's all the way in the backfield.
Juspin knows about him, though, because he was killed by Breakpoint.
Let's see. Yeah, he's looking. Juspin's looking directly in front of him, but he's not looking to his left. Oh, he's got to see him now. He's running that way. Juspin's going to have to see this guy.
Come on, Breakpoint.
Oh, there shouldn't... Neither of them can hit each other. They both just emptied an entire clip on each other. And he finally goes down. So Breakpoint...
I need to show Breakpoint how to dodge this shot.
Breakpoint very nearly gets through on the very backside, but like as I say that, DC is now starting to push through, but at the expense of an entire squad of OC has now crossed the field, and they are now on DC's side of the strong point here, moving in on the eastern side. So like a little bit of ground given up for both teams, but it definitely, I think it's a bit of an even swap, a little bit.
Ninja is doing a play possibly on the west side now, if he moves his outpost actually.
Yeah, be curious to see what he's thinking here. Is he going to go alone, or is he going to move the OP entirely? He's right on the line, so he does need to be careful.
He could do it like really silently, like one of your guys did against us.
I think they just saw each other. They're looking for each other in the wheat fields. I think Ninja saw him. Ninja stood up for a second and then stood back down. And they've run... Oh!
This is a very interesting moment right now.
And Ninja keeps walking, and they just
I'm
go
gonna see
right
him.
past
I'm
each
gonna see
other.
him. No?
I mean, surely someone can see him, right? I mean, no, a Stig doesn't see him.
Why are they looking like this, as if they're looking for somebody, even though the outpost is not shining yet?
Right. It's interesting, and Ninja now has gotten through. I mean, like OC is now pushing a high line, you know, in and around the strong point and on the eastern side. But
I,
Ninja moving in on the west side could actually do something here.
I would be a fan of him moving the outpost because their squad that is on the glider is not doing much right now. Like, just
Yeah,
I don't think they're necessarily effective right there.
and
They found
now,
that they just called out the proxy.
yep. Ninja has flashed it, and you've got Templeton. He's looking. Miley just spawned as well.
And he's going really commando. Like he didn't even consider moving his outpost.
Yeah, I think he's. Oh, he drops Templeton. That's a really good kill from Ninja. This might cause a little bit of panic on the OC side. Oh, Ninja gets both, and he's gonna get the outpost, isn't it? It's right there.
Yeah, but this is gonna help actually Aztec to move the outpost closer to point.
He does get it.
Had to do already.
But Ninja does at least open up the backfield a little bit for DC, and that is forcing. It looks like Aztec is now running back a little bit. Is he setting his OP here? Is that what he's doing?
Should be.
Yes, he's setting it right there. So it's a little bit closer.
Did them a favor.
And we are just over 11 minutes to go in this match. You know, what's Ninja's play here? Does he just stay here? Does he try to set an outpost all the way in the backfield? Like what do you do if you're Ninja?
It's a really tough decision actually right now because you can't really move the outpost here because he's gonna get overrun.
Really nice kill. Ninja finds a Stig. You know, now I feel like he definitely can't set his outpost. They know he's there. But you know, it's at least causing, like, the line is just kind of fluid now.
Yeah, it gives an opportunity for guys to push up, but
and you have like a player, Burn, Templeton. Everyone's kind of looking for Ninja, and they can't find him. Now Ninja closing in on the MG in the building. He's on a mission.
it's so funny. Like he's ninja and he's actually doing ninja.
He's
things.
doing some ninja stuff. He's gonna close in. And he gets the MG, so Ninja really doing a nice job in the backfield for DC here, cleaning out, you know, this backside control that OC had established. And, like, does he set an outpost? Because imagine Ninja's able to set an outpost to get a full spawn in this position. He could just kind of, you know, encircle this OC team that's in and around en route. Be curious to see how it plays out.
I can't believe that the Out Company squad on the east side hasn't made anywhere further than they are right now.
They're running into a squad leader. Abel's squad leader has been kind of just pinning those guys, it looks like, alone. I'm going to go zoom in on that fight for a second. A full squad just spawned over here, and they're getting kind of pinned, I think, by one guy. This is Justbin for DC, and he's kind of just, like, got this entire group of 5 players.
See what's Ninja actually doing right now? Like he has shifted so much OC guys from the west side that they are not helping on the point anymore. And DC gets the opportunity.
DC is getting
to
capture
move a lot
progress.
of numbers into the circle.
And I think Ninja just went down. I think someone found him. He is no longer up.
Did, yeah.
Or maybe he redeployed. Who knows? But now look, DC, big opening here in and around the strong point. A Stig does have his outpost up still, right? Yeah. So he's going to be able to get back up, and he's got west side. So it looks like, you know, I would say right now OC's got solid control of the flanks, but DC's got huge numbers mid. So it's just going to come down to, you know, 10 minutes to go. At what point does OC collapse and go in towards the strong point? Because, you know, at a certain point, those flank positions just don't hold a ton of value.
If DC deny right now the barn on the west side of the road, then they should cap it. Otherwise, I think the Out Company may be able to stall the progress. But it seems that they're not recognizing that the barn is in the circle right now because they're not even trying to push in there.
And now OC is now. It looks, you know, it's amazing. It looks like DC has so many players inside the circle, but like when you look at the buildings, but the circle really extends a little bit further south, and so these OC players are also inside of it. And now it's a straight contest. It's just contested, and now OC getting a little bit of capture progress back. So, just been like a game of like cat and mouse. I feel like for both teams. This is just like all over the place.
You know what DC is not doing well right now? They're not throwing grenades into correct positions.
Yeah, I
They're
did
just
notice
running
that.
in without throwing nades.
And like I haven't seen a lot of explosives generally, like not a lot of rocket launchers coming in for DC. I just saw one now. But yeah, I agree. Like there has not been a lot of grenades coming out for the DC team, and they're trying to cross the road and they're trying to get somewhere. But now, it's really back and forth. Like 2-3 minutes ago, it looked like DC was in the driver's seat, right? Like they were just like ready to go. And now OC. They're still in a good position, but now OC, look, you have a rifleman running in for the glider, and there's nobody there. That's Templeton, and he's going to get that outpost. Templeton secures the OP and drops, so he's going to be able to move around now. And Abel's squad lead just spawned in at the garrison instead. Like, DC doing some weird things with their outposts. Like, Abel has an outpost up, but he keeps spawning at the garrison to secure what's going on the eastern flank. And now, Templeton in the backfield, and he might get both outposts. He gets one. Templeton, he's just right next to Abel, and he can't find it. But one OP goes down. Like, it all falls apart pretty quickly there. DC loses 2 outposts very fast.
It's very important for DC to hold on the strong point and hold the angles and not overpush right now. Because they need to essentially give time for other guys to catch up.
It's basically a 3v4 in and around the strong point right now, and it's quickly a 4v2. And just Templeton misses that outpost by a couple of feet, right? I mean, he was right next to it. If he gets that outpost, that could be GG there for OC. All 3 outposts go down in 30 seconds.
What I think OC Out Company doesn't recognize right now, just been pushing on the east side towards their outpost.
There's an assault player there. They're gonna run into each other. He drops him, so that's something to keep an eye on as well. And
he gets outpost.
Interesting too, right? Like DC actually had forward capture progress when all of that happened. So like they actually kind of gave themselves a bit of an advantage.
Ooh, what? Hellfire just took out the Stevens outpost on the south side of the strongpoint, and Breakpoint had to move his outpost slightly back on the southeast of the strongpoint as well now.
Okay.
It's just been took out the outpost on the east, so they've been pushed back a little bit, the Odd Company.
Yes, but Odd Company also still threatening. They're right up against Able Outpost here. Miley and One True Bob are right there. So Able Outpost still under significant threat here. And Baker has not dropped his outpost yet, and he's running into the zone. So Baker's got to be careful. Has not set his OP up, but getting close to combat. If Baker goes down again and doesn't set the OP, that could be a massive setback here for DC, and he does get it down. So this is going to turn into, with 5 minutes to go, DC has to go for something. Like, they have to try something here in the middle, and they've been getting close, but they haven't been able to do it. And, I think we were both questioning why OC picked Axis, but so far so good for them, right? I mean, they've made this pick make sense for them.
Yeah, they understand how to play it correctly, it seems, yeah. While DC, at this very moment, they don't understand how to handle West. They just can't move up there. And I think it's just because the outpost is by the glider and they haven't moved it.
And an AT player, Templeton again, almost the hero. He's right next to the outpost. Templeton comes within a couple of feet again of the outpost. And there's 2 right there. I mean, OC has pushed DC right up against all 3 of their outposts, and one play could really spell doom here. We're 4 minutes to go in this match. If OC drops another 2 outposts, that could be game potentially, right? I mean, there's so little time left.
Yeah. I don't see DC actually pushing through.
Oh, and a grenade! Anymore. A grenade gets Able outpost, and then he resets it. But look at where Able had to reset his outpost. All the way. Able had to reset his OP ways away from Rude, like not even close to it. And now, now Baker, but he lives, yeah. So Baker lives. He's gonna be able to reset. But Able losing his OP, he has to reset, and he's nowhere near the zone now. So I mean, OC now has a big advantage with just a little bit over 3 minutes to play. I mean, definitely OC in the driver's seat of this match.
They're still very, very weak on the numbers and strong point though, like on the west side of it, to box out. So this is still gonna be a little bit close, I would say. Let's see what Juspin does. I think he should be like plus W right now, trying to push up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the DC has no choice but to place these outposts. Oh, but Blanker just went down and He didn't reset his outpost, or someone took it down. Blaker goes down, OP goes down, so now Baker squad for DC's got to reset. Ah, that's really bad. That is really, really problematic for the DC team right there.
I think this is a really good breather for OC. I think they've been waiting for this moment.
2 minutes and change to go, and OC now in a very commanding position, really starting to push a higher line, and they're preventing DC from being able to push. Oh boy, I think OC now is just 2 minutes away from forcing a game 3 here. It certainly looks like it. They're really in the driver's seat.
It's going to be very interesting on flak pits if we get there. Because I think both teams are not necessarily...
well versed on flak pits.
They haven't practiced it, I think. None of the teams.
So, yeah, I mean, with 2 minutes to go now, I mean, look at OC in the wheat field. I mean, really pushing a high line. I mean, there's no one from DC anywhere near the zone right now. You've got one MG and a full squad spawn comes in on the glider. But that's it. I mean, no one's even close. I have to think 90 seconds and change to go here. I think Odd Company is going to force a game 3 or a match 3. There's just no one from DC in a position to really positively influence the cap.
And DC had their moments. They just didn't necessarily push out far enough.
Absolutely. And this looks like we're going to see a match 3 in losers round 6 on a predetermined neutral strong point for both teams. And we're going to coin flip sides potentially. This is going to be really exciting. And, you know, got to give credit to OC, right? Like they didn't play a very team-oriented game in match 1, or at least it didn't look like it. And I felt like their team play here in match 2 was definitely better.
Yeah, they had to work together essentially because there's so much open fields and like a lot of places where you essentially just stack up. Like, so they had to actually work together a little bit more here in this map, in this specific strong point. But in general, like their structure, their spacing was much better in this point.
Yeah, and we are seeing a kind of a last-minute push here. DC has got a couple of players moving in. One drops. If that assault player lives, maybe there's a chance. But with 30 seconds to go, I just don't... There's just not enough players from DC close to the cap. I think we're going to see a match 3 on flak pits today, and that is really exciting.
At this point, it's impossible to push up. They're really too far away.
Yeah, just not close enough to influence the cap. Really got to credit OC. They showed up here in match 2. They really played a really solid game. They used cover well. They used positioning well. They took advantage of an open east side. And that is game. That is a tie. That is a 1-1 heading into match 3. DC picks up match 1. OC picks up match 2. And now we are headed to a winner-take-all match 3 on flak pits. And the winner gets to fight Aro on Saturday next week in the losers final, and the loser goes home. So it's all going to come down. Both teams have had an excellent tournament. Both teams dropping to the loser bracket have fought their way through the loser bracket, and it's all going to come down now to a winner-take-all game on flak pits. I'm excited, Jim. This should be good.
That's going to be an interesting match indeed.
This should be really good.
I don't necessarily think that both teams like have that play style to be able to box out each other. I think that's going to be a really close game.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna. I'm curious to see what happens with sides in the coin flip. I think there's an advantage both ways. We'll talk about it in the next match, but we're gonna cut away 20-25 minutes as we set up the next match. Please stick around as we watch these two teams who've really played really solid games. This has been really fun to watch. They're gonna play each other in a winner take all, and oh boy, here we go. So thanks, Jem. We'll be back in a little bit. And thanks for joining us for the Summer Invitational. We'll be back.
I'll be back in a moment.